Morning guys, so welcome back to NZ Outlaw Kustoms again. So on the last video I got these pieces repaired for the hood side hold downs. I got all these little bits cleaned up, repaired, straightened these pieces out, built up little inner rod pieces, built up the ends of them where they were all worn away from, close to 100 years of abuse, I suppose, thereabouts anyway. Mightn't be quite that long because obviously the vehicle probably hasn't been on the road for a fair while, but it's probably a good 60 years or 50 years of abuse there. So I've got all that stuff cleaned up. So now I'm going to give them well, cleaned up and repaired, and now I'm going to give them a sand up, especially the outsides of those pieces which are going to be painted. Give them a clean up, get them etched with a bit of, just with a bit of that, this etch it stuff by C.A.R. Handy stuff. I haven't used this product, but it's easier than trying to mix up some to put in a spray can for just little pieces like that. When you're doing big panels, like fenders, doors, bodies of cars and stuff like that, mix up a bit, mix up a few hundred mils or whatever, fluid ounces or whatever however you guys work in America, and put it in your spray gun, like your big conventional spray gun, and spray it on, or even a mini spray gun, which I've kept saying in the last few days, I want to get one. Really need to get one for a lot of these small pieces, because then I can just mix up, let's say 100 or 200 mils in a little cup, and flick this stuff and it's done. Even with painting, it's going to be a lot easier to use a little gun. Especially, I don't want to be mixing up a whole heap of product, and that's also why I set a digital scale, so I can just weigh it in there, if you know what I mean. So many grams or mils or whatever, or whatever the conversion of pounds, when you're like talking like fractions of a pound, I can put so much of that in and so much of this in, and I can just mix up little amounts in the bottom of a cup, give it a stir, throw it and paint it, instead of trying to use a big cup and trying to measure out, and then you end up with way too much product, which would be very, very easy to do with small pieces like this, unless you had a mass of them set up somehow and spray them. So I need to paint all this stuff at some point in the next few days, and obviously give this stuff, the wheel parts, a clean up and a coat of etch, and then obviously a bit of primer and paint them as well. But still, even with those few pieces, still not enough to mix up. You've a half a cup, maybe a quarter of a cup of paint on those big spray guns, and then you're also dealing with a big fluid tip, and it's harder to control when you're trying to spray a little bit of paint on something. It's not too bad, but you know what I mean. Like if you just got like a mini spray gun with a very small fluid tip, you can just flick it on. You can get a couple of really nice even coats, but with a Briggs spray gun like a 1.3 or a 1.4, it's a lot more difficult than using a 0.8 or a 1 mil, or even smaller than 0.8. I think a lot of them go down to maybe 0.5, so you can just get and do some fine little work, and just flick some small stuff and get a really nice job. Especially when you paint and stuff like that, you still want to have it in your good quality 2-pack paint, not out of a rattle can, unless you happen to be mixing it up and getting it put into a can. But that's when you've already got the paint. It's an added expense, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I'll get some paper and work out some way of getting these scuff up. I need to repair. Once I've got that stuff etched, I'm going to start repairing these pieces here. Just a few little repairs to do. Weld up a few holes It's a bit thin here. Make up some little repair panels for that. Get this stuff just finished off. I started, we gave these a good clean up and whatever earlier on, but I need to come back and just fix and repair these things, and then also get this stuff reattached to it. It's been spot welded in a couple of spots, so I need to do that too. Get these spot welded back on so they can be reattached. So because that's what these screw to. These are anchored to those, and then there's a bolt that goes down into the body which holds all that, if you know what I mean. So it's just not tugging on the panel steel, it's tugging on a bit of whatever that is, 1/4 inch plate, or maybe about 6mm, thereabouts, I guess. Might be a bit more than 6, doesn't matter anyway, but you know what I mean. It's a bit of, it's about 6mm, thereabouts, so it's about 1/4 inch, or give or take. Because 6mm and 6mm is about 12mm, so that's roughly 1/2 mil. It's a little bit over 6, so that's 1/2 inch. So yeah, it's 1/4 inch. Me trying to convert it, so yeah, because 25.4 or thereabouts is an inch mils, so yeah, half that, it's about 13mm, roughly 12.5, 13mm, so yeah, 1/4 inch, thereabouts. So I mean, it probably is 1/4 inch because was made in 1924ish. Anyway, so yeah, get this stuff cleaned up, start repairing these, just get a few of these little pieces sorted. So the first thing I think I might do is get a panel stand set up with one of those bits of plywood on it, those small bits of plywood that I've got floating around. Make up something that I can even bang a couple of nails, and so I can stand these up so they're not going to fall over when I try and spray them. Give these obviously a clean up, those clean up, and then spray them. So we'll come back to you shortly. Right, get this stuff sitting in the sun warming up since it's cool this morning. The old rattle can, a good shake up. Lubricate the throat. Right. Lovely. So yeah, that worked quite well. So again, C.A.R. Can see here. Whoa. Here, C.A.R. etch it. It's made here in New Zealand, but I can guarantee it's made in other countries, if you know what I mean. It just means it's produced here. So yeah, touch dry, 20 minutes. It's less than that at the moment. Full cure an hour. Dry to overcoat. An hour minimum, 24 hours maximum, sort of type thing. So if you're going to put like another product over or paint over it or whatever, gives you 24 hours basically, without obviously having to give it a scuff or anything like that. You can just go straight over top. So that's cool. That's that little job done, basically. Just give that another quick flick around the edges. Not that's going to matter too much, but see a couple of spots there. Flick. A little bit of paint there with it. Rather low, I think. Otherwise I'm just going to sit here and play. Right, we'll come back to you shortly. We'll work out what we're doing next. Right, so I've repaired that one, welded up the holes in here and then the little split in here, which isn't too bad. Copper works really, really well. If you don't know, like a bit of old copper tube or something like that, works really well. It, obviously the weld doesn't stick to it. It helps absorb the heat and just stops if you get a thin piece, you know, like where that was. It was running away on me, so that's why I got the bit of copper tube that was floating around here, put it underneath, clamped it there, so I could weld against it, and it gives you something to weld against, so the weld doesn't run away, doesn't burn away the thing, and absorbs the heat. So it works quite good for funny little spots like that that are just awkward to work, and then obviously did the same like that. I put it against there, so I knew I wasn't going to burn a big hole on the edge. I'll do the same on this one, because this is even thinner. I might have to cut a piece out of here, but if I can get away with it, I will. Because by the time it's painted and whatever, and it should be fine. But it's just a matter of getting it to weld up. So I'm just going to panel beat this a little bit, just try and flatten it off a little bit, get it a bit smoother. Biggest problem is, again, because I probably should have really studied that one in Queenstown, but this has got a little bit of a taper away, and this is actually pointing towards the front where the grill is. So I think that's a bit of a runaway spot for water. So I think that needs to be a bit lower, because it's the only piece that's actually bent. The rest of it's flat, because it sits up on top of the chassis rail, but that's actually sitting inside the chassis rail. The chassis rail's about here, and that sort of tapers away. It's bent on this piece too. It's bent down for the water to run away. So I think the rest of it should be fairly flat. So you've got the same thing to do here. This is going to be even worse to weld up, because I think it's quite thin through here, but we'll try, do the same trick with the copper, and hopefully we don't keep running away on ourselves. But, worst comes to worst, I'll just have to make a little patch and put in here. But, yeah, because the rest of it's pretty good, it's pretty solid. So yeah, I'll put this on the back of the anvil, See if I can just flatten this out a little bit, try and see if I can get these hoopty doos out of it, and see how we get on. Just flatten it off a little bit, and I'll come back and attack that one. Righty, so that's that one repaired. Actually wasn't as bad as I thought it might have been. I did have to screw around a little bit with that, with a copper tube, and obviously put a bit of a right angle into it to get into where I sort of wanted on that edge. So I left that piece alone. I just made it up for the other end just so I could get in here a bit easier, because it's got that piece of metal in there. I could sort of try and get in there the best I could, so I could still clamp it against this piece, and so it was tucked up underneath there. So it's not too bad now. Probably needs just a little bit more of a straighten up and whatever, and clean up. So I'll do that shortly. Obviously it's going to be cleaned up and prepped for etch. And all those sorts of things, but yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable now. We'll give it just clean up a little bit more to straighten up along that edge, blow some etch on both these pieces, and I'll get those other little bits that go on here prepped. Should have them all now. We're at 1, 2. So I'll get all these prepped. I'll just grind the crap off them where it needs to be ground up. So I've got 2 of those now. Got that one off that other real rusty one. Not sure if I filmed that or not. I'll remember when I do the editing. So yeah, get those all cleaned up, get them etched, get both these etched, and then I can work out what I'm doing from there. This afternoon. So I really need to probably get a few more little bits and pieces cleaned up so I can suss out some way of getting a few pieces together, so I get enough to blow a proper bit of primer on most of these little bits and pieces. How am I going to do that with the big gun? I'm not quite sure yet. Until I can get myself a mini gun. I had a quick wee Google. There's not a lot, well there is a lot around, but I need to probably have a look, actually physically go and have a look at something, just to see what it's like, because I don't want to buy a piece of junk and, you know, use it once and throw it away, but I just can't quite afford to. If I'm going to buy some bits from spray guns direct or something like that, I'm going to buy everything at once. I'm going to buy a new top coat gun 1.3 and ditch that to Vilvis, or I might just keep it handy for a backup. Use the pot off it from the A&I gun, cut down the spring and put it in that other blue gun. If I need the spring for it to use it at some point, I can pinch one of the other ones back out and throw it in for the needle. I want to get a 2.5mm tip for that A&I gun for primer, so I'll have a 2mm and a 2.5. Yeah, I want to get a mini gun, and a new top coat, which I think I'll probably get an FLG5. As much as I'd like to buy a Pro Light, I can't afford to spend $500. 500 or 600 bucks on one. But the FLG5s are still a really nice gun for probably $250. Still like a really, really nice gun for about $250. I know the gunman recommends that one. He said it's a really good gun for what it is, for the price of it. So yeah, and gutted I lost that good A&I gun here when I went to Australia in 2017. Otherwise I probably wouldn't have had that other one, because that other one was a couple of steps above that one, even though it probably wasn't much more expensive. It was just a better gun. But I bought that one and that primer gun because of what I could afford at the time. I was trying to get something that was going to do the job, which it does, but just with it playing like that, and I can't get spare parts for it very easy. For the 60 something bucks or 70 something bucks it's going to cost me to get that seal kit, which I still haven't heard much about. I'm bloody near, and that's Australian, so I'm bloody near halfway there to buy another gun. By the time you get here with freight and shit, so I might as well throw that towards a better gun and use the pot off that and the spring out of it to fix two others. Or to improve one and to fix the other from that lost spring. Guarantee it'll turn up after I've cut it. Cut that other one in half. But anyway, I'll run over this with that Scotch Brite and the Rolox, get that cleaned up. Yeah, and we'll get this shit etched and prep them. Right, so I put them back through the sandblaster again just to give them a bit of extra clean up. So I've etched them, etched those little brackets both sides that go underneath, so that stuff should be good to go, I guess. So yeah, I just need to probably go through a few more pieces so I can spray all the stuff at the same time. Get a few bits and pieces sprayed at the same time. So yeah, I just need to work out what I want to play with next, I guess. Probably the windscreen posts. What else can I play with? That should be reasonably quick and easy, so I can get some of the stuff sprayed. Probably that. Yeah, probably wouldn't go astray either. That light bar cleaned up. It's had, it's like everything else, it's had a clean up at some other stage, but it probably just needs a light going over it and just checking. But it looks like it's in reasonable sort of nick. So get that stuff done. I'll grab them out of there in a minute. What else do I need to play with? In the meantime, anyway. At some point I will pull those out. They actually look like they've been nickeled, don't they? Have to give that a clean up, those headlights. And make sure they fit that bar. I think this is meant to have the small headlights on it, but he wants to put the bigger ones on it, which I think are they're obviously off Studebaker, but they're different. I think they might be off a bigger car. We'll see if I guess if they look funny, we'll go back to them, because he does have more of those here somewhere. So yeah, it's like the horn to get cleaned up and going. few other bits and pieces and brackets and stuff. So this is sort of stuff I need to start sorting through now and just slowly get it cleaned up. I think I've got to straighten that, which was that spare wheel carrier for the back. So yeah, we'll get this plastic out of the road one of these days very shortly. I just need to sort out the bits of plastic to go underneath. Just need to try and decide whether I put in short pieces in underneath with the bolts are, or whether I put like a big long stripper down it, I guess, you know, and pick up all 4 bolts. Well, yeah, probably could do the front 2 together and the back 2 together, probably. We'll see. Haven't quite decided that one yet. But yeah, it's all the stuff we need to do shortly, between getting all those other little bits and pieces together. Get all this stuff painted black. You know, this stuff here I'll probably just give it, you know, a couple of, just a light coat basically. I could probably even rattle can black these bits where you're not going to see. But yeah, sort of a hard thing, because I don't want to be freaking wasting heaps of paint, because you waste a lot of paint painting this small stuff. So yeah, what else do I need to do? Got something else I need to find shortly too, is some rubber to make the little bump stops. I actually need to find, getting off track, but I need to find a couple of little bits that go on the doors for the, like, into those locating lug pieces. Not the bump stops, but the other bits, if you remember back that far. So yeah. Just set this stuff up here, I guess. Meantime, so I need to get, no, it's not this one, it's the other one. Need to get some broken threads out. I had another go at one other point. Try and see if I could get it out. Yeah. Oh no. Was it on that? Or did I get them out? Is it there or was it on the side? Can't remember. Oh, yeah, I know. So here, I need to get that out. I need to get that out. So yeah, I might tackle that next and then get this. A few of these bits cleaned up after lunch. I'll go see if I can get this out somehow. Because I don't really want to make that hole any bigger. I've got some easy outs, but I don't know if they're that small either. We'll see how we get on. Alrighty, so I do have these easy outs. I had a dig. It's got that one little freaking, like the screw one, which I may be able to get in there. It's either that or one of these ones. Yeah, this one here I think's the smallest. Yeah. Maybe better get that in there, but it's such a freaking small hole. Yeah. I'm trying to remember that's for a mirror, I think. Yeah, for a mirror, side mirror. And it's factory. It's a factory thing. Well, I think that's pretty much a factory thing. So yeah, I need to get that out. Somehow. quite how I planned to get it out, but we got it out. We'll take that. In the meantime, so I think it must be lunchtime. Righty, so where are we at the moment? I've got the windscreen posts in here and the headlight bar in here and the brackets. I had to take that apart to get in here because it's too long, but apart it fits in here fine. You can see there's a bit of a hole in that one to weld up. I'll have a look at the other one with the headlights on it just to see whether it needs welded up. I noticed when I put it in there, or when I took these brackets off, it needs welded up. So yeah, I had a quick look at these headlights too. I'm going to have to panel beat one of the buckets, these big ones. And it looks like they have been nickeled or chromed at some stage. They definitely haven't been painted. So yeah, we'll have to try and get them panel beated. And obviously weld up the hole either in one or the other. See which bar looks best. So I might throw these up on the bench here, clear some of this crap away, and sit this up on the bench and strip that apart and have a look. Just to decide which one I'm going to play with. I've got that one in there anyway. 1.5 dozen the other. I might just clean this one up and weld it up. Once it's done, it's done. So yeah, I'll get these cleaned up. At least I can get a wee bit of each on these. But those uprights have been etched at some point, but well, when it was done, so it's not going to be hard to just give them a quick blast. Yeah, give them a clean up, and then just hit them with some fresh stuff. At least then, because I just want to get a few bits and pieces done, so I've got enough to at least mix up a little bit of paint in the cup. You know, I don't know what I can get away with. Its biggest problem is, like, that's why one of these medium cups, because I can get a smaller amount out of them, if you know what I mean. Probably 1.5 dozen the other, I'm not sure. But I know the smallest graduation on this is, what's that? 4 to 1, what are we looking? A couple of 100 mils, 250. So we're talking about half one of these pots. And I don't really need that, like about that much would be nice. That's where a set of scales would be good. Or, you know, one of these small things would be really handy if I had another one. Actually, Dad's still got some of these at home. He's got some of those medium ones. Where will we look? I might shoot around there and grab one of his small ones. This is quite good because it's got the mills on the side of it as well. Where are we? 4 to 1. What's the minimum I can smash up in this? Yeah, so I can do about 150-ish in this, which is still not ideal, but it's better than nothing. Because I haven't got any small cups unless I really tried to clean one up. What's the minimum amount of these? For primer it wouldn't matter. I didn't have to try and clean one up. So yeah, I can do about 100 mils or thereabouts on one of these small ones. That's where these small cups are handy. These medium size ones are good for mixing up a full pot of paint or thereabouts. Or these bigger ones are quite handy for a couple of pots, because you end up, if you're mixing well, this is about the same size as one of those, or thereabouts, if you know what I mean. So by the time you get enough in there to fill that up, or close to it, you're almost spilling it, stirring it. Whereas that's where the slightly bigger pots are handy, but these little ones are good if you're just doing a few little pieces, because it means you can mix up a little bit less. So what I might try and do, not that I really want to do it, but I think I might, is find one of these that's clean-ish. I've got some dirty thinners there. I might throw that dirty thinners in there, just let it soak. Just run clean the crap out of it. Tip it back in that tin, you know, after a bit, after the soak, and then just give it a wee splash out with some clean thinners, give it a blow down. And these, then I might be able to mix up a little bit of primer to put through my primer gun and just work out how I'm going to paint all these bits, or at least get a coat of primer on these, because this stuff says 24 hours sort of type thing to overcoat before it's too hard, and then you've got to scuff it, if you know what I mean. So if I can get it, I can almost get away with, like these here I won't panic about. And probably even those I won't panic about. I'll just rattle can them black, if you know what I mean. It's underneath, you're not going to ever see it, and it's only, they only go back on when the screws are in for the bits, if you know what I mean. So yeah, but everything else, probably tape. I'll tape the insides of them up. So if I can get that stuff cleaned up and get a little bit of primer on here, these things, I think that'll be enough. I'll just mix up 100 mils. And I think between all those little bits and pieces, even if I have to hang a few pieces up here, like shift some of that crap out of the road, and just put those panel stands over there with those on it, and then just make up a few little wire hooks and just hang a few bits and pieces and whatever, you know, lay some stuff out, hang some stuff up, get a little bit of primer on, especially this, you know, like I want a few good coats of primer on there so I can at least block them out and make them look half decent, if you know what I mean. And by the time they're bolted down and whatever, you know, they're going to look nice. I'm not really going to know what they look like until we at least get that stuff on and clamp them down, and just make sure that I've tried to get them as straight as I can, but it's not that easy though, either. They're not too bad. I think by the time you pull them down, they're not going to be too bad, and they can go over, like they're going to be on the edge of these, and, well, not really on the edge of those, but in amongst that stuff, so you're not going to see all of it by the time you get everything in the road either. But yeah, I think that's what we'll do. I'll splash that thinners in there, let that soak on, clean that shit up, and welding that hole up. At least I can get some primer on that crap, because I don't need to prime those headlights. I've got everything else I need for those headlights over there and that stuff, as long as the bolts are the same. That doesn't mean I can change them over if I need to. You're just thinking out loud, guys. And then I can look at those headlights afterwards and panel beat and whatever, and we can probably get those away to be nickeled, and the little handles for the pull downs to be nickeled. I don't know whether he's been talking to any of those other guys, but anyway, I'll get on with it. Yeah, and we'll come back to you in a bit. Righty, so I've got all the bits I think need masked out. I could probably actually might quickly mask the bottom of those too, just where the threads are, just so I don't have to worry about trying to get painted later on. So I've just masked where the caps go on to these hubs that we have, but none of them are any good. And I've masked up the centre of this and the thread on this. So this piece is sort of like seen, I guess. This slips on here. So this is the outside. I'm pretty sure it's the outside with the witness marks for the heads of the bolts. You can see the round witness marks in there. So I'm pretty sure that's the outside. Pretty sure whether it's really badly pitted, which would have been against the wheels, or against the wood, is the inside. I can't remember, I didn't take them apart. So like this is going to be seen, this is going to be painted. If I find one of those old beaten up caps, we've got something else you're going to have to try and make. So this is like one of the caps, this one's had a hole blown in it. But they screw on there, so you're going to see that piece. So I need to prime that bit, on both these, whereas on the rears it's, you know, the cap covers up to there, if you know what I mean. So I need to prime that piece at least. Not too worried about here, but I've just taped off this piece so I don't end up with a heap of build-up primer in here. Just the epoxy will be fine, because like I said, they'll cut the hole for the centre pretty snug and then they'll push it on. So like it doesn't really need to be primed up here either, but this piece will be painted. And obviously this piece will be painted. And then I'll turn these over and just prime the back side of them. So yeah, I'll take these bottom little bits of thread off. I've got all these hanging up here to blow a bit of primer on. Like probably, hopefully these here, the one, God, stand back a bit, I haven't got it zoomed out. Yeah, zoomed out. Yeah, like really these should only really need primed and sanded and then painted. So I'll give them a few good coats, you know, I don't know, 2, 3, probably 2 or 3, yeah, reasonable coats. These 2 or 3 reasonable coats. Hopefully I don't have to really revisit too much on these. Hopefully with a few decent coats and a decent sand out, they should come up reasonable. Same with this, you know, a few good coats. So basically, really, it's only, all of them only really need a 2 or 3, I guess, to get a reasonable build up on them, and then sand them back. Same with all this, really. Like, these only really need a probably, you know, 1 coat will probably do them. Just, you know, maybe blow 2 over just to see what happens. Same with their couple of 3 good coats on these, because they are clamped to the fender, so at least, and that pipe slips over to here, in there, I should say. So I want that to look reasonable. Same with these, you know, they're a cast piece, like without going into heavy detailing, like as long as they're reasonable coverage, a light sand back, and that'll smooth a lot of it out. So pretty much it's the same with everything here. There's nothing really that's needs any major huge work. Hopefully that will fill up reasonably well without being too chronic. If I may have to blow an extra coat on that, we'll see. I was going to put in some nails in there to stand these up on, but I think they're going to be alright. They seem to stand up alright before with just a little spray can. Mind you, a paint gun might blow them over. So yeah, see what happens. Alrighty guys, so I poured the friggin' paint on this stuff, or the primer, just to try and see if I can get a reasonably nice finish when I give these a sand to try and make them look reasonably decent, if you know what I mean. Try and get them to flatten out a little bit with all the, what do you want to call it, pitting and stuff like that, just to help fill it up a little bit. So I smashed it on these really, especially these two here. I freaking poured it on because you can see how it's quite pitted. Especially this one there. This one here is not quite so bad. So yeah, I've smashed it on there. So hopefully when I sand it out, it's reasonable, and I hopefully don't have to do it again, if you know what I mean. That's what I was trying to. That's why you would have seen in the high speed that I just smashed it on here. I don't know. There's probably I don't know how many coats on them, and same with these two here. That one there I got a few flicks, but I actually purposely, well, I didn't try to make it run, but I purposely sort of end up with a run because there's a couple of little pinholes in the castings when I actually clean them up and sandblast them. There's a couple of little pinholes in there, so I just was trying to pour a bit extra on, just try and help fill them up. We might just scrape a little bit of glazing putty because there's one there. You can see I made it run there because I tried to pour it in to help fill it up, so that might just have a little bit of glazing putty just pushed over it or something like that. So yeah, but I'm hoping just to give these a light rub back and paint them really. And like the inside, I'll also just get a light scuff. That'll just get a rub back with probably freaking just 400 probably. Might see 240. Might start with 320 or something like that on these. Same with this stuff. Yeah, it's probably 220, and just a quick rub back with 220. Bring them down, see what they look like, and then we've got 400, and then just paint them. So yeah, but I will demask and then remask for obviously for the black, just so it's not building up too much on that tape. But yeah, that should be good. Hopefully this looks half decent too when I sand it back. It's quite pitted still, but it's like there's not much I can do about it without putting 50 coats on it. Back over. So yeah, should be all good. Just make sure these aren't sticking too hard. So just turn, as you would have seen, I spray them, sort of let them go off a little bit, and then just turn them over a couple of times. Just try and get it built up on there. Again, when you give it a light rub back and whatever, I'm probably going to have to hang a lot of the stuff to paint it black. Try and get reasonable coverage on it. But yeah, like a little minigun would be a damn sight easier with this stuff. It wasn't too bad with the primer because you're trying to pour it on, but to try and get a nice coat on there would be ideal if it wasn't like that. But should be right. So I've given that gun a clean out. So it's about, I don't know, 4:30, I guess, thereabouts. So yeah, I might just call it a day, I think. Put that back down. Must be about due to paint. I change those filters again with the amount of frickin' painting and priming and crap I've done with them. About due for another set. Since they only last about frickin' 8 hours of use, painting, well, breathing through. So yeah, we're getting there. A bit more stuff cleaned up. And then once I've got this sort of stuff cleaned up, because mainly I wanted to do it for the wheels, but I didn't want to just spray, not mix up such a small amount to spray the wheels. That's why we try to get a few of these other bits and pieces painted, obviously primed. And these are sort of, next in line, and are sort of next in line sort of type thing, to go back on the body. And once these are painted black, they can be, well, not really, but you know what I mean, like they could be painted on if it was all buffed up, type sort of thing. So yeah, that's cool. That's actually one of the worst things to paint is going to be this shit. Mine just probably not really be any harder, but I've still got a lot of French work to do on there. I've got to pull all the frickin' rivets and everything in them here. All the solid rivets instead of bolts to hold it all together. So once it's riveted together, it doesn't come apart. And hopefully I don't need to pull it apart again. Anyway, that'll do. In the meantime, I think that stuff should be right with that frickin' tape on it till morning. Oh, I might just give it a few minutes and then pull it off. It's not too bad for dryness. As long as that's top coat. So anyway, we'll rip this off and we'll bugger off.